Welcome back to another episode of Talk Your Abs Off. I'm your host, Abby Clapper, and today I'm joined by Gina Marie, who is a podcast host, trainer, author, UGC creator, and business owner known for her no fluff, no filter approach to mindset, health, and entrepreneurship. She is the host of Mindset, Health, Empowerment, the Unfiltered Trainer, a podcast built for people who are ready to level up without burning out, where she has honest, unfiltered conversations about what it actually takes to build a life and a business that is real and not just one that looks good. She's also the author of The Badass Blueprint, a guide that will enable you to tap into your inner badass to curate your personal, professional, and health goals. Welcome, Gina. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful you even asked me to be on here. So I'm just glad to be here.
Yay. So Gina and I have a little bit of a history. I think I've known you for probably about 2 years now. We met at a Florida Podcast Association. So Gina's also in the podcast world, as you heard. And we connected through Florida Podcast Association and have been to a couple of podfests together as well, which has been fun.
I know it's crazy to think that's 2 years because I literally had just started my podcast when I met you.
That's so crazy. Oh my gosh. Wow. And your podcast.
I'm just here for fun. I had no idea that podcasting was like a business. Oh, I remember being on the podcast and I was like, wow, Gina, you might need to learn. You might need to get involved.
Yes. Yeah. You might want to network with some more podcasters and learn some more things. Well, I love it. And I love that we connected because you're also a trainer. And I love talking to other personal trainers. We all have very unique perspectives. And what I love about you is similarly to me is you look at the whole person instead of just like a cookie cutter type of program. We talk about this all the time on my podcast. And you also are looking at entrepreneurs and the business side of things as well. You've built your business and I'm excited to talk about that. And in my own network, I have a lot of women business owners. So I know they're going to be so excited to talk about this, about building business and staying healthy. So I'm ready to get into it if you are.
Let's do it.
Amazing. So like I said in your intro, you do so many things. You do social media, entrepreneurship, UGC, for those that don't know, is user-generated content. So content creation along with the podcast. What do you do for yourself to find balance between your career and your wellness?
Honestly, it's so funny, but I feel like it ebbs and flows in every season of your life. And for me, recently, I found this reignite, this new love. Even though I've always been a reader, I found a new love of reading again. And being in Florida, this is my time to shine. It's hot as can be. I love it. This is why I still choose to live here. And there's nothing better than finishing your shift or whatever you're doing. And the fact that, okay, in 45 minutes, I can be at the beach. And as long as I can be there longer than it takes to drive and get back, I'll just go to the beach and I take a book. And right now I'm reading a book a week. And it's just one of those times where the phone goes down. I'm not doing anything for that hour or 2 hours. I'm literally just reading. And I think it's been a really nice break because it's not a physical activity. So often my breaks from doing everything I was doing were workouts too. And it just got to the point where it's just Gina, there needs to be something else here. You have to have other hobbies and things you could be doing. And so actually I built this bookshelf behind me recently. It was a very comical experience. Thought I bought a bookshelf that was just something you put together. And here I bought an unfinished bookshelf that I actually had to stain and build myself. And so I've just been filling it with books, thanks literally to TikTok, of just people recommending books and following other book talk people, and I've literally just been reading. And it's been the nicest thing with our weather, just to sit on the balcony and just be fortunate to be in the environment we're in and just kind of disappear for a couple hours and read.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love that it's not something physical. Your balance is not something that's going to push your body more. Some people will be like, oh, my break time is my workouts. Well, we do need rest. Our bodies need rest. And your bookshelf looks beautiful, by the way. I love it. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. It looks amazing. And what would you say is your favorite book that you're reading right now?
Honestly, it's an author. It's Frida McFadden. And I found it very interesting because I read a lot of suspense, thriller, figure it out type books. And you don't know the plot or the twist initially. But what I found out is that she's writing from a pen name. And this whole time, she's actually a physician who specializes in brain injuries, which was just I don't believe in coincidences, so I found that interesting. But her books are easy reads. And so after a really long day of patient care, to read something that's going to be too intense, too just my brain can't focus, her chapters are really short. They're really interesting. They're intriguing without being overwhelming. And because they are thriller books, there's obviously triggers and things in a lot of the books, but it's never unnecessarily like violent or dark. So she as a whole is my go-to anytime I steer from another author and I'm like, that was okay. I go back to Frida, reignite my love of reading, and then try a new author again.
That's amazing. I'm going to have to look her up because I love a good mystery thriller book. So I will definitely keep that in mind. And so you mentioned you were finding these books off of TikTok, and something about Gina, if you don't know, Gina, I find you very influential. I would call you an influencer based on the numbers that you have on social media, what you do with your content creation. To me, you're an influencer, especially in the Tampa Bay area with all the things that you've done. And something that I've touched on just a little bit on this podcast before is like influencers and fitness content. And girl, let me tell you, I'm sure you've seen it. The influencers who make the rest of us, personal trainers or not, just in the fitness field, feel like we are less than to everything. And so I kind of want to talk about, like, as an influencer, what do you look like and the people that you follow? What makes you so, because what I love about you is you're so authentic, and what makes you continue to have that authenticity as you move forward when you're creating your content?
I think for me, it's so funny because I didn't start social, like people try to start social media now. Like they are intent on making a business, they want to make it big. And like, I kind of chuckle because when I started literally over 10 years ago now with my first fitness business, like I was sharing my personal transformation of losing 30 pounds. And I was just putting it out there and I was just sharing like the emotions. Like I didn't realize I was storytelling. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just started growing this following. I just found it so intriguing. I was like, oh, okay, like people care. That's interesting. And now I look at it and I see social media so differently because so many people are intentionally trying to make it big because I mean, influencing and user generated content is one of the biggest platforms right now to make an income. It's quite incredible what can happen because of online marketing. And so now I've seen it from somebody as a user who was sharing their personal story, and now it's a business. And for me, I see it very much as an opportunity to present in a way that you don't always necessarily see. And so for me, I know that it's a highlight reel. I know that most people are putting their best foot forward, and that's all fine and good. Have that for you, but that is not what I will ever do. And for me, I'm always, whether it's to a fault, might upset some people, always going to be honest. And so I don't get caught up in the comparison game. Also, I'm like old, like I'm getting older now. And it's like, 20 Gina, like Gina in her 20s, Gina in her 30s. They're two totally different people. So there's a lot of growth here too. But I see people and you see these wonderful fictitious lives, in my opinion, because I don't believe they're real because they're never showing you the other side of things. And so for me, I think what made it unique is the fact that I always shared from a place of honesty. My story has a lot of trauma, a lot of grief. I've been through a lot of things in a very short period of time, and they were all happening while my business was growing. And so when my business took off is when the center of a lot of things in my life happened, and it was very public, and so it was just like one of those things where it was like, you can share this with the world. Other people are going through very similar things. Or I could have chosen to just post the workout video and pretend like, all of these things weren't happening. And I think that's just where it came from, is just the unique perspective of, I had a series of immediate people in my family. In a series of like 3.5 years, I lost 7 people in my life. And people were just extensive illnesses, and it was all just happening. And it was from a small town, everybody knew my family. And it was just one of those things where it was just like, it became very relatable. Like, she's going through things that we all experience. And I've always carried that with me. I think for me, like, even though companies that I work with want to know your analytics and your metrics, I always saw it as a means of just making an impact. And I think because I don't look at it from the metric standpoint, that's what makes things just a little bit more human, is that I genuinely, if I'm sharing something, especially if it's personal, It's because if I've experienced this or I'm struggling with this, there's at least 10 other people out there. And if they don't know it's okay to talk about these things, how are they going to find the right support system? And so for me, I know it's a business. I know things have to look and feel a certain way, but it's the human aspect and the human element that I personally choose to bring into everything I post. And as long as you don't lose that, I feel like I don't get caught up in like the influencer aspect of all of this.
For sure. I think that makes such a big difference. And I'm curious to what you would maybe say to someone who, like, say specifically in the fitness industry, to someone who is seeing all of these fitness influencers and just feeling either really overwhelmed or feeling like they can't, like if they want to start their fitness journey and they're looking at all these influencers and they're like, I'm never going to look like that, I'm never going to be like that. What would you say to that person who still wants to try and be healthy but is just feeling like everything around them is just like way too much and it's not achievable?
Yeah, it's really simple. They don't look like that either.
Mm-hmm.
If I've learned anything about social media, and especially like the big players, the celebrities, the really large influencers, a lot of people, unfortunately, aren't honest about the ways they've modified their body. And there's nothing wrong with what people are doing. If you choose to have a service or a procedure, more power to you. I don't understand why anybody cares what anybody else is doing. But if you're not honest about it, that's when I care, because when people put out this image to people and say, oh, well, I did this workout, we know damn well you did that workout, but that's not why you look that way. There's
Yep.
so many other things around it. I think that's the first step, is understanding that whoever you choose to follow, you could do everything they're doing down to eating every single thing they're eating. You genetically are different human beings, and that's a beautiful thing. Why would you want to be a carbon copy of somebody else? Use them as inspiration, use them as empowerment, but you're never going to look like somebody else. And I always tell people, if you want to share your transformation, if you want to share your story, your workouts, if you just love fitness, you have to share it because it's like genuinely something you enjoy. Because once you actually start to grow a following and this becomes a business, it's no longer fun. When I
Mm-hmm.
have content deadlines, I do a lot of UGC, and I know a lot of people like, they're always like, oh, she's an influencer. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be the influencer that's selling you products. I want to be somebody that influences you to do things that better yourself, because that's something you enjoy doing, and inspire you to have a better quality of life. The content side of things is, it is a business. And once you start getting ahead, the moment you stop, the amount of people that will unfollow you, it happens so fast. So you have to understand that if you do choose to pursue the business side, consistency is king. But understand, like, you can't do it for the numbers, because if you go into it with the energy of, oh, I'm going to post this just like so and so did because I want to get the same engagement, it's going to fall flat on your face every time, because people, even through a camera, can sense your energy, and they can sense when it's fake. And so you really do have to do it, one, because you want it. Two, if you choose to pursue the influencer side of things, you have to have tough skin, because everybody's got an opinion about everything these days. But you really can't allow it to overwhelm you, because if it starts to, I know so many people, we talk about this on the podcast, like, oh yeah, I muted somebody. And I'm like, well, why don't you just unfollow them?
Yeah, and I love that perspective so much, especially when we think about people who are influencing products, especially when we get into the fitness industry, creators who are selling specifically supplements. Because a lot of times, like you said, they're not doing their own workouts, or maybe they are, but that's not why they look that way. They're probably not taking the supplements that they're trying to sell you. They're not using the products that they're trying to sell you. When I see your content, it's something that you genuinely care about, something that you're using, something that's like reasonable. But when I see some of these other fitness influencers, I'm like, I know darn well that you are not taking this supplement. And then they're pushing it out to people. So I think that's important for people to keep in mind when they're taking in content, is to really think about how it can actually play a role in their own wellness journey, as opposed to, well, so and so is taking it and they look this way and now I want to take it. Like, that's
Yeah.
completely unrealistic.
And the question is, are they taking it? And
Right.
so, without
Mm-hmm.
dropping names of a company, a couple years ago, I was met with a really great offer from a very big supplement company. And I told them, I was like, listen, I there's numbers, like there's a lot of money to be made in content. And so I was like, all right, well, like, listen, I can't promote a product I'd never tried, especially I'm allergic to dairy and eggs. So everything I have to take has to be vegan, and vegan products aren't necessarily always great tasting. And so they sent me this beautiful box. I did a YouTube review, was very honest. The products were terrible.
Oh,
I have been allergic my entire life. I've tried every single supplement on the planet. I know value. They were awful. And this is a huge company, a multi-million dollar, pushing $1 billion supplement brand. And so I emailed them and I was like, listen, like, full disclosure, I can't sign this contract agreement. I said, I can't willingly take this money. Here's my thoughts on these products. Are you in the works of modifying anything? And their response was so rude. It was alarming. And they were just me like, we're done with you. Like, we're not doing this. And it was just like, okay, so you're looking for influencers. You're not actually looking for like valuable content creators. There's two very different things,
right.
because the influencers will take the check, they'll put the product out and it sits on the shelf, versus that's why I got into UGC more, is because user generated content, I create a lot of content for companies that you don't actually see on my page. And that's the unique thing about UGC, is you don't actually share it on your page. I'm creating the ads. I'm going on site to businesses in Tampa. I'm filming their events and filming their content, giving them like all of their B-roll, and you'll never see it on my page, and I get paid to do that. Now, if I really like a product or have a great experience on a shoot, I will make my own video for that event. And so sometimes, like in content, like you're paid by a company to promote a product. Obviously, with the FTC, you have to disclose that now, which I think helps things, because you do know now when your influencers or content creators, they're getting paid to say a statement. However, it's really nice with UGC is because if I do an honest review, I don't have to post anything. So when you do see me posting the stuff that I've collaborated on and been paid to create content for, whatever's on my personal branded page, that is stuff I truly back, I use, I enjoy. And so that's a tricky part of things. And it's also, I'm sorry, but there's an over supplementation issue going on in this country. Your main nutrients, obviously, are supposed to be coming from your nutrient dense foods. Like, supplements are to aid in the things you can't get or you lack. And you see these people and they're taking their stacks and they're 6, 7, 8. And it's just like this really bad advice,
Yeah,
because are you doing your lab work? Are you getting things checked annually? And you're telling people to take all these products, which you may take, but that other person, that actually could harm them. And so you really gotta be very mindful of who you take your information from, especially with nutrition and supplements, because there are a lot of people taking a lot of supplements they don't need to.
well, and supplements are also not regulated well. Like,
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing is, we can, we have like our top ones of like magnesium and, all these things that, like you said, if you're not getting it in a well-balanced diet and your doctor says like, hey, you could probably supplement this, great, by all means. But then there are like just some weird things that you don't know. They're not tested correctly. You might not even be getting what you think you're getting because they put fillers in so many of these supplements. And that's
Yeah,
like
and like
the
hormones
thing.
is a buzzword right now,
Mhm.
cortisol, and it's just like,
Peptides, yeah.
you go get your numbers checked,
Yeah, go to the
because
doctor.
you really don't know. And then you over supplement in an area you're actually at an adequate level at, and then you actually can harm your system instead of help it. And so I know I've always been somebody that's leery of a lot of supplements, even to this day, like a vegan protein powder. I already have to take B12 and D because I'm deficient just from where I come from. It's like very minor. And so unless you're doing serious bodybuilding competitions, and there's so many lifestyle clients don't necessarily need that many things. And so things look cute because somebody you follow, promotes things, but it's not necessarily the best advice you're going to get. So you really do have to like think about who you follow. You can support anybody, like their content, but before you ingest something or invest in something, really have to think twice about who you're following and what they're promoting.
For sure. And I think that also brings in the idea of media literacy and just making sure that we're truly thinking through what we're taking in as media. Especially for, I mean, you could take it in any way, politics, religion, whatever. But when we're thinking about fitness, questioning, like sometimes I'll talk about things that I've seen online with clients, and sometimes they'll question, and I'm like, I love that you are questioning and that you're thinking critically about, what this person off of social media said. Like, I think that that is so important for us to do. So, and not just taking everything and assuming that it's the truth, and really challenging it a little bit and using our science brains that we can use.
It's so important because people can put anything they want on the internet. And
Mm-hmm.
AI, I mean,
Oh
AI
my.
can create there's a lot of great to AI, but you can
Mhm.
also now create any type of design and make somebody say something they didn't. And it's just like, you really got to vet where your information comes from. And that is with everything, you
For sure.
know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, kind of going along with the topic of like influencing, and also just going back to like being an entrepreneur, um, I have found in this stage of life that the hustle culture and hustle mentality it's so prominent, because we always, based off what we see on social media, we feel like we're probably not doing enough because everybody's doing so much more. And especially when you own your own business, or if you're in a space with other business owners, it can be really challenging because you feel like you're falling behind, you feel like you're losing. um, so is I want to get your thoughts on hustle culture, and if there's anything that we can do about it to still kind of maintain our health and well-being through all of that.
Yeah, so recovering people pleaser, and I'm recovering from hustle culture. I am the person that used to burn the candle at both ends and then lit the candle on fire. Like I don't know, it comes from a scarcity mindset, a financial instability background. Like you take, we always talk about your childhood. You take your experiences as a child and what you see. You have opportunities and resources as an adult, and you think to yourself, well, you want to make the most of your time. So I want to do all of the things. And so I've learned a lot from doing a lot of things. And it's taught me the hard way that if you continue to just go at all speeds 7 days a week, it will put you on your tail and it will put you in a situation that is less than desirable, to say the least. And so I've learned over time is that I used to be a big vision boarder, a big journaler, and I realized that all that gave me was anxiety. Like, it's great to have visualization, it's great to have a path and a plan. But I realized to myself is that, like, I was so obsessed with making those things happen that at no point or time was I ever considering my lifestyle, working till 3, 4 in the morning, getting up, going to teach a class. Like, there's so many days I worked 16 hours a day. And now I'm in a very reverse situation where I work like 70 hours a week and I have significantly more time on my hands and I'm still accomplishing things. And so it really just comes down to the way you see yourself and the way you establish balance, because I know we all think it's, oh yeah, balance, but it doesn't exist. It actually does. You may not acquire it on your own. You might be forced into a situation, but hustle culture, I feel like for a lot of people, people that are far too focused on what other people are doing, and you see people accomplishing a lot. And I think it's really important to understand that the most successful people move in silence. And so something that I've adopted over the last couple of years of like really meeting really influential people in business, especially in Tampa, is that they all told me the same thing. Gina, don't tell anybody what you're doing until it's done. And I was always like, yeah, but like people are going to think I'm not doing anything, I'm not building. And they're like, no, like people, one, aren't always as happy and supportive of you as you think. Not everybody wants to see you win. And two, if you're so fixated on showcasing what you're doing, you're not really putting out a quality product or standard. And so recovering from somebody that used to do a lot of things all of the time, what I now do every single year now, I've adopted this principle is like I write down just a list of everything I want to accomplish in the year, goals, dreams, desires, just ideas. And I don't pursue multiple things at the same time anymore. And so I pick what is a priority to me. And that list and the goals I have to be based off priority. And so I've learned that I have a certain amount of hours I have to work at my job. Then I have a certain amount of free time hours. I used to come home from work and just work until I was done doing whatever I was doing, content, editing, whatever. And I was just burnt out all of the time. And the content, you could reflect in that. And so for people that are really caught up in hustle culture, you'd be shocked at how much more you could accomplish and the quality you did if you started to have balance and put those boundaries into place. And so for me, that comes with having a really set system. If I do anything, it's systems and organization, and I execute flawlessly. And so you just have to enjoy truly enjoy the journey and just be grateful for what that destination looks like, because it's not going to look the way you ever thought it did.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And I think it makes so much sense too, especially if we take it into the perspective of, like you mentioned, at the beginning of the year, you write down your goals, your dreams, your visions, and then you take on one thing at a time. And I think if we take that and we relate it to people who make their New Year's resolutions around fitness and who say, all right, I want to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to change how I'm eating. I'm going to walk a 5K every day and all of these things, like that's not sustainable. It's not realistic. So I really like the idea of picking one thing and then kind of moving forward with that. And I think that entire little section there is so good for female entrepreneurs, for any entrepreneurs, but specifically I network with a lot of women entrepreneurs. So I think that that's so important for all of us to remember that we're all like running our own race. And again, we go back to social media. This whole episode is just going to revolve around social media just because of how much we take it in and just like seeing all of this and making sure that we're running our own race. And also to your point, finding the people who are going to push you to do better and do more, but not to a fault and not to the extent where you're burning out. Like that's the most important thing.
That's like a disease in Tampa. So
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about this several times in my podcast. As somebody that not only is a trainer, but I ran 2 franchise fitness studios. And so I saw everything. And it was like, I've never, in all the cities I've lived in, I have to laugh. It's not funny, but it is funny. Like, I've never seen a city so obsessed with fitness. And you would think on the outside, oh my God, of all the things you could be obsessed with, that's wonderful. But we have this very weird obsession in Tampa, and it's incredibly unhealthy. Nobody should work out 7 days a week, let alone doing 2 workouts a day. And I've seen it at every studio I've worked at where people will come and take a second class, the same class they took, or they go and do our workout and then they went and did another workout. And I'd be like, hey, did you adjust your intake for all that activity? And they were like, what? And I'm like, no, like do you realize the severe deficit that you're in? Because you're already in a deficit. Most people no one's ever eating enough. And it's like, did you adjust your caloric intake based off your effort? Because we would always we did really valuable scans with our clients at the one studio I worked at, where like we would scan them every 4 weeks and they'd be like, oh my God, why am I losing muscle? And I'm like, this isn't rocket science. We've talked about this. Like, you're undoing all of your effort because you're over exercising. And so I've never seen this phenomenon as much as I have living in Tampa. And I think it goes back to just lack of knowledge and proper training. And it's when I used to do a lot of online clients, I haven't taken on a lot this year. I only have let returning clients come back. I would always tell them, we're doing one thing at a time. And it really is just how I live my life now. But they would always, okay, I want to work out this many days and this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Week 1, we're going to just track what are you eating? Just track your intake. No workout, they get nothing,
Mm-hmm.
not step goals, nothing from me. For the first week, they have to track no changes. Don't even try to increase your protein. I want to see what you're doing, because what was actually realistic for you. And then we'd add in a workout. Then we'd add in a calorie goal, then a macro. The actual program takes almost 4 weeks with me to start with my clients, because even at the end of 4 weeks, there is not adherence. By the end of week 8, we're now establishing adherence. And so you see people trying to do everything at once, and it's why it fails. And that's why I hate the new year. I hate the new year, new me crap. I think that's deplorable. I hate right now what I'm seeing is everyone's like, oh, so many weeks till summer. Make me want to vomit.
Yeah.
Why? Why
Yep.
are we teaching people to be seasonally fit?
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to be teaching people to be seasonally fit. And so instead of all of these very disordered thought patterns and processes that trainers are putting out there, how about we sit down, we look at the individual, and we formalize a plan that actually works with their lifestyle instead of against them.
And I think you bring up a really good point. And to those not local to Tampa, like what Gina is talking about is actually so true. And I didn't really realize it. What I notice about Tampa, and I'm sure it's a big city thing. I grew up small town Wisconsin, so I was shook when I moved down here to Tampa. But in a big city, and I know in certain areas it might not even be a big city thing, but some people are so obsessed with their image, physically, and how they are portrayed to other people. And I think in Tampa we see it a lot, especially in certain pockets of Tampa. And it's just the craziest thing I've ever seen. And yeah, I don't know, that's a whole nother tangent. But I think along with what you're saying is that people are doing all of these workouts, in my opinion, to look a certain way. And I know, some people work out for the mental health benefits. Some people work out when we're talking about people who are working out regularly but not over exercising, are doing it for their health. But then, when you're doing it over to an extent, like you said, we're not getting any benefit. You're breaking down your body. You're not getting ahead by doing that. And yeah, anyways, that was a lot of really good points. So I love that you said that. And yeah, Tampa's just a crazy place.
And people mean well. Like I always tell people, like, I know you mean well. You're trying to inspire your friends, and I think honestly, what I think it is community. I know that like this is a very transient place for people that don't understand Tampa. Like 5 years ago, a lot of people didn't even come here. It's drastically changed in the last 5 years, but people come and go a lot here. And I know a lot of people like myself. I got moved here for work. I had knew nobody. Do it for community. You do it because you want to be around people. And that's the part that I always tell people, I'm like, okay, great. Well, then there's community walks, go to a community yoga class, go to a community Pilates class that's not heated on a reformer. I get why people do it because they just want to be around other people. So I'm not knocking the intention, but the aggressive, high impact hit workouts are so unnecessary. And especially for females, if you only realize what you were doing to your internal systems, you would realize that it's not the answer. But it's definitely the most prevalent, I feel like, definitely is in Tampa. And I'm sure Miami's probably worse, just
sure.
the nature of where these places are.
Yeah. And I think this brings up another really good point. How can we, I know that we as trainers do it, but how can we help kind of separate the health and fitness tied to appearance for people? Because sometimes it is, if someone has a weight loss goal or wants to look a certain way, that's fine and great. But how can we also help people separate it, that health and fitness does not need to look a certain way?
Yeah, I always ask clients, we had people would always at first be like, oh my God, this form is so long. My check-in form. Of course, we're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about your workouts and your adherence. That's cute. Okay, let's talk about your sleep. Let's talk about your stress. Let's talk about your hormones. Let's talk about your rest and recovery. And how did you feel mentally? And that's the thing I feel like a lot of this goes back to is just mental health is truly the most important aspect and one of the most underutilized resources and tools out there because there was so much stigma. I feel like, and now we're slowly starting to become more acceptable. It's just asking people, but why? Okay, so why do you want to be at that weight? What does that weight signify for you that you're like, okay, I'm going to be worthy when I'm 135 pounds? Or, it's sad, but clients have said, I would feel like I could be loved, then I could pursue a relationship. And that's when you start to realize and things start to unravel that this isn't a physical thing at all. This is a self-worth and value. That's when you start to have really tough conversations where you have to tread lightly and keep that human element. It's just there's always some type of reason or trigger or something else that is behind that physical goal, that physique goal. And you really have to get to a point of teaching people how to be whole on their own. I say this all the time to people because I am single and I swear to God, the amount of times people are like, oh, now we just need to get her a man. And I'm just like, okay, first, horrible thing to say to somebody. But I always tell people, I'm like, if that happens, wonderful, but I'm whole on my own. And it took me a very long time to be okay with who I am as a person and be comfortable and confident in that. And I feel like that's what we need to teach people is how can we teach clients, how can we teach the people we're training to understand the overall side of wellness is you as a whole, functioning internally, functioning externally, and then associate their goals with things that aren't synonymous with an image or a number. So let's talk about, big thing with clients is tracking your weight selections, focusing on the progress you're making, because the reality is you think your goal weight's 135, but at 150, you look like you're killing it. you're muscular, you're leaner than you're going to realize that you're going to be, and you look amazing. And so it really is just, as cliche as these comments are going to be, taking somebody by the hand truly and leading them down this journey that here's what you thought your goal was. And then in, 12, 24 weeks from now, their goals look drastically different because they had an internal experience as much as they did an external experience. And so it really comes down to asking good questions and breaking down people's walls and barriers to understand, why do you feel that that is so important to look or be a certain size or look a certain way? Because it really never is about the physical side of things. There's always an internal, a previous story, a heartbreak, something mental health related, and then really coming full circle with that person to help them understand, how do we get through that? And then how can we truly embrace this lifestyle, but also your brain has to change.
It's that rewiring of those neural pathways. Me and my therapist are tight. We're talking about neural pathways and trying to navigate that negative self-talk. And I think that kind of aligns with what you're saying, is talking to yourself in a different way that's going to allow you to have a different goal that's not associated with weight. And in a society that for so long has associated your weight with your worth, like you said, is, it's a really hard thing to break. But I think the more that trainers like you and I have these conversations, it really kind of breaks down the stigma and opens up the opportunity for people to really think differently. And I think
Yeah.
the older generations definitely have a harder time with it. I was a health coach for a weight loss app for a little bit during COVID, and so many people struggle with really getting down to the why behind why they want to do something. Because you can say, oh, I want to lose weight because I want to, I just want to look better. Well, why? Why do you want to look better? And then really uncovering those layers of that onion, which can be very difficult.
Yeah. And honestly, something I personally had to do here is being mindful of who you're surrounding yourself with.
Mm,
And so I did this without this isn't the airport. You don't have to announce your departure. But I actually had to unfollow people I know from gyms I've been to. And actually, I don't go out with them
mhm,
as frequently anymore, because every time we went out, the entire conversation was about what workouts they did, what their weight was, what they ate, and then what they were going to do tomorrow and how many workouts it was going to be. And it was just one of those things where, yes, fitness is my life and it's my business, and that's all well and good, but I don't want to be that person 24/7, 365. I'm a
yeah.
human being. I definitely want to be eating. I'm trying to live my best life. I would always leave those conversations thinking, okay, you didn't do enough. You need to work out harder. I've had a restrictive history with disordered eating in my 20s, being a collegiate athlete. That's where I learned how to do everything wrong.
Mm,
Developed tendencies because of our coach and how restricted they were with us playing collegiate sports. And so I know a lot of people in my generation were also in that same boat as collegiate athletes. And so it's also just being really mindful of are your friends and family supportive of your lifestyle? Because not everybody is ready to live a healthier lifestyle. And if you start to embrace those things, people can resent you. But
for sure.
also, are the people around you encouraging you to do things in a healthy manner as well? And so I just have chosen to not surround myself with those people as much. Still love them. There's no
Mhm.
love lost there. But I just don't want every single conversation I'm a part of to be about how many workouts I did and what my run split was. I don't run, but that was running's a big thing here. I'm never going to run. Even if you're chasing me, good luck. We're going to fight. I'm not going to run. So, hope you can stand your ground. But every conversation doesn't have to be about that. And there's so many other amazing topics you could be talking about at dinner that isn't about whatever high rocks competition, Spartan, it's
Yeah.
great, but it's
Mhm.
just all people talk about. And
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it's just being in fitness as a business. It's just, I want to turn that part of my life off. And I just want to be a human being talking about books and movies and
Yeah.
not have to be inundated with macros and workout splits.
Well, okay, it's so funny that you bring up high rocks, because I have gone off the rails on I don't think that high rocks is bad, but I think what gives me, every time someone says high rocks, I roll my eyes. High rocks, CrossFit competitions, all these things that are very at least when they come across my algorithm, it seems to be for a very elite athlete, and then the people that you see, that's all that they talk about, right? Which is it's difficult. No, I don't think that those things are bad. I think that those things are very healthy, and it's way better. I was talking to a friend about this recently. It's way better to do those things than to be, going out drinking like 3 nights a week. If you're training for high rocks, like, you're doing something right. You're doing it healthy, but everything within reason. But I think what you're also saying is, like, especially those of us that are in the fitness industry 24/7, yeah, who wants to talk about all of that 24/7? Like, we have lives outside of your work. It's like if someone in corporate went out and the person that you were hanging out with wanted to talk about your 9 to 5 while you
Yeah.
were away from the 9 to 5. Who wants to do that? Nobody. So there's more to life than fitness. I mean, thankfully, we have friends that we can talk about other topics with, because there's more to life. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think
That was
that's.
the thing, like the one thing about High Rocks, like last year our gym did a Spartan together,
Mhm.
and I will never do that again
Oh,
because
please
in
tell me more.
the Tampa Spartan was outside in May. I thought I was gonna die carrying a sandbag up those steps. I thought that was gonna be the last day of my life. Never could do it again. That's not my jam. Like we did it as a gym, and I'm like, okay, I run this entire studio. Of course I'm gonna do it with you. That's fine. I thought I was gonna be the team captain, right? So I'm like, all right, yeah, let me do this. Like, let me pay for this. Like, we did training sessions because we did Spartan training sessions. And I don't know, because this is not my world. I didn't realize that when you're the team captain, you must compete.
Oh no.
No, yeah, not a runner. I'll outlift you all day, but I don't run. So I had to compete. I did a Spartan, no training at all. And I hated it. I thought it was a horrible experience. I don't think you should be doing stuff like that in the heat. The only thing I liked about it was that it brought a diverse group of people together that wasn't friends before, but
Mm.
those people I see together now and I see them doing things now. And that's the only part of it I like is that for High Rocks, I like that they are emphasizing training. The fact that there's like so many gyms. That's like the moneymaker right now is becoming High Rock certified. Like any
Yeah.
gym not doing it would be crazy because this is the hit thing. This, just like Pilates was last year. Okay, everybody's getting High Rock certified. Now, the only thing I'm liking about High Rocks is that it seems like they emphasize the training part more and like preparing people better. And that's why I was like, oh, wait, like there's a whole certification. Like there's all this stuff that you can do to actually adequately teach people how to do something instead of like just trying to go balls to the walls to like do some crazy competition. I follow a couple of these like High Rocks coaches and I'm like, wait, they're like teaching people proper form. And like, I'm like, all right, maybe we could come together and find a happy
Mhm.
medium with all of this and come up
Yeah,
with something that's more wellness based.
for
But
sure.
I am alarmed and maybe I'm like, maybe you don't belong in Tampa because Tampa had like what 21,000 people on a High Rocks wait list, and
I
like
know.
I think I know 3 people that got in, and I was like, wait, that many people wanted to run. What is it? How many miles? I'm like,
Girl, I don't
oh,
even know. Well, and people are
oh,
traveling here to do it too.
yeah.
Like, it's not
That's
even
the
just
part I
people in Tampa.
forget is that Tampa's a vacation destination, but
Yeah.
that's the only thing I like about it is that teach their own. Like there's so many types of fitness I'll never do, but
Yeah.
people love it. The only thing I'm noticing about that compared to every other fitness competition, because CrossFit's how I had my spine injury in my
Mm.
young 20s, being taught how to do something wrong in an environment that was not supportive or educational. And so, like, in the back of my head, I've always been form focused and education focused. So maybe we're getting a little bit closer, and it's indoors.
It is
So
indoors, and it literally just popped up out of nowhere, like, it overnight. It's just an overnight sensation, and that's where my concern came from, is I was like, "Where did this crazy competition come from?" But anyways, I'm sure it was there. I
we did actually just research at work because we were talking about this the other day. I didn't realize the money.
what
The
about the money?
winner, yeah, the winners win like legit money.
Love
Like
it right now.
I thought it was just rankings. No,
Yeah,
there's money to be made by winning High Rocks because
say
it's like
less.
obviously,
And yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
yeah, that's why I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, okay, obviously I'm a hater because I just don't run and I just hate running. And like that's who I am. So
Winning.
no, Gina is triggered by running, clearly. But yeah, no, you can make like serious money.
It makes so much more sense now.
And the sponsorships, the
Mm.
people being sponsored, like again, influencer, social media. I think
Yeah.
that's where the hype is coming from is because it is so well marketed,
Yep.
so well publicized, and the big players, even a couple of the Tampa sponsored High Rocks athletes that are local, I mean, they got a lot. following's huge, So I feel like it all ties in together. If it
Mhm.
wasn't for social media, I don't think the hype would have been there because it's so easily accessible. And it's just like you see what people are accomplishing. And like, again, people want to be a part of a community. They want to feel like they're a part of something.
I think that really brings us kind of full circle, finishing up like the High Rocks piece and how it's so emphasized on social media. I think it's this whole episode is just a really good reminder to just be very careful about what we see, who we follow, what we're taking in social media. And at the end of all of my episodes, I do a little segment called Absolution. So my question to you is and maybe it's social media related, maybe it's not, but what are one or two things that you feel like we can absolve ourselves of fear and guilt of within the fitness industry, because it's hella toxic and we know that.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, I say this about everything. You could solve the majority of the world's problems if people stop forcing their belief systems onto other people and just minded their own business. Because I think that's where a lot of the contention comes from in everything that we're experiencing social media, politics, the view of the world is just learning to accept people and put the human back in human being instead of being so quick to tell people, oh, you're doing that wrong, or no, this is this, and like, no, my belief that, like, in everything, everybody is so hyper intense about their belief systems. And it's just like, both things can be right at the same time, both things can coexist, and everything doesn't have to be an argument. It's just one of those things that it's just like, you can have your belief system and believe whatever you want, and I love that for you. And this person can believe a completely different thing, and there's nothing wrong with either of you. And so I think if we as a society and just as human beings take a step back, listen first, respond second, I think we'd have a lot of better educated, open, understanding, empathetic people, and that people wouldn't feel so much pressure to look or feel a certain way, that they'd be accepted by society if we stop being so intense with our belief systems and just listen to people first.
I think that's so good. And I think that's also very important for, I like as a personal trainer, listening to my clients is what makes the biggest difference, is what I found, because there are trainers out here who are not listening and they're hurting people emotionally, mentally, physically. And when we really take the opportunity to just listen to other trainers who are good trainers, and also listening to our clients and listening to what's hurting people within the fitness industry, that's where we can really make the change. So I am fully on board to absolve ourselves of that. That feels good. Well, Gina, thank you so much for your time today. You are doing so much, and I hope that people will search you out, follow you, because like I said, you're a very authentic person to follow on social media. If people did want to follow you or find you, where can they find you at?
Everywhere and anywhere as Gina Marie Fit. So Instagram, I'm learning TikTok. I feel like I'm 95 years old. I don't understand it, but I love it because everybody's just putting stuff out there without a filter. I do have a YouTube where my longer form content sits. That's also labeled Gina Marie Fit. And I just updated my website that is literally ginamariefit.com. And that all encompasses everything I do. But if you look up my name and put it into the Google search, thankfully, you will find all of the things.
I love that so much. Well, I will put all of those down in the show notes so that all you have to do is scroll down and click if you want to give Gina a follow. And that is going to be it for today's episode. I hope to see you on the next episode of Talk Your Abs Off.